If you're an entrepreneur, you and I share a common enemy. And every day, this barrier to progress presents us with our greatest risk. And it has to do with something as simple as a list, a to-do list. When it comes to the hundreds of things that scream for our attention, our success actually hinges on which of these things we choose to say no to. Some of them are needs. Some of them are wants. Some of them are errands, and some of them are those fires that we just need to put out. And the danger, though, is only a few of them, if any at all, will actually move the impact needle when it comes to our revenue and our growth. That what we choose to work on, what we choose to give our attention to, what we choose to focus on at every given moment now will determine the success or failure of our business later. And this isn't really even just about business. This is about the effectiveness of our lives and the growing effect and influence that we have in our relationships, whether it be with our spouse, our kids, our employees, our customers. But most importantly, this is about our relationship with ourselves. And confidence is an emotion that is influenced by many things, one of which is executing on the right things at the right time. It's to see the needle move. It's to see and experience progress. And that progress all boils down to these two things: where we position our focus and how we spend our time. And both are scarce resources. And today on the podcast, I want to introduce you to a tool, a working principle and methodology that I use that has helped me to focus only on the essentials. Those highly leveraged activities that are responsible for the brand impact and future revenue growth of my company. And it's called the 4% rule. My name is Sasha Daravanesian, and these are my insights. When we hear these words, impact, influence, growth, when we think about these power words, what they mean, we often define them by their fruit, but very rarely are they defined by their root. And at the end of the day, these are nothing more than algorithms, behavioral algorithms, an input that results in an output. It's a formula. And I've simplified this formula as focus plus my talent over time. And it's when entrepreneurs struggle to understand this, we tend to slip into all those familiar traps of negative emotion, namely anxiety, stress, and fear, which for me is like the cycle of entrepreneurial hell. And the reason we fall into this anxiety is because we lack optics, we lack visibility, and we lack direction. And we lose our way because we've lost our vision. And what invariably happens is we become surrounded by complexity, which breeds as a result a lack of clarity and focus in our lives and in our business. And for me, when I find myself in this complexity, it's easy for me to identify the byproducts. And these are probably the same as yours. I fall into short-term thinking, lack of strategy. I have a lack of motivation and energy, lack of execution. I feel like I can't finish everything or anything for that matter. And I actually feel confused and unorganized. And at the end of the day, it really boils down to this feeling like I just don't have what it takes to get it all done. And that's a scary place to be as an entrepreneur. And one of the biggest reasons why entrepreneurs fall into this complexity is because of our obsession to do everything ourselves. If it's not done the way we want it, we'll just do it ourselves. And what happens is these little things keep us busy. And as a result, they keep us away from the areas in our life and business that we actually need to be working on, that actually move the needle of effectiveness and growth in our businesses and in our life. And instead of working on the few things that will generate this impact, we allow the squeakiest wheel to get the grease, and we waste time and focus and our talents on low yielding tasks that give us minimum to no return, tasks that we should be given to someone else. And by doing this, we forego those activities that will produce the bulk of impact in our businesses. And what I found is that the only way out of this cycle of ineffectiveness is to combat complexity with the only power that can beat it. And for me, that's simplicity. It's identifying those tasks, and only those tasks, those projects, those big ideas that are essential for moving the needle in our business, and applying our focus, talents, and time to only those things. And for everything else, the strategy is either to outsource it or hire around them. The bottom line is this: if we are focusing on the wrong things, we cannot focus on the right things. And I want to introduce you to an invaluable rule and exercise that I have found to work well for me. And it's what I use to combat this complexity in my business so that I can simplify my day into areas of focus and highly leveraged activity. And it's called the 4% rule. Now, we've all heard of the 80-20 rule, which essentially tells us that 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our clients, or 20% of the things you work on will be responsible for 80% of your revenue and growth. And this is also called the Pareto principle. The problem is very few entrepreneurs apply this to their business. And it's the little stuff that screams for our attention that keeps us away from the big stuff that actually needs our attention. And what the 80-20 rule tells high-performance entrepreneurs is that they must say no to 80% of their everyday task list in busy work, and either delegate it or outsource it so that they can focus on just that 20% that moves the needle. Now, here was the insight for me. What if I applied the 80-20 rule to the 80-20 rule itself? To simplify and decomplex my day even further, as the CEO of Harvest, I only work on the 4% of the activities that create 64% of the impact and revenue growth of my company. That means after cutting out 96% of the activities that are screaming for my attention on a daily basis and usually bog me down, I only focus on a few activities, 4%, which are not even tasks as much as they are projects. And then I delegate those tasks within those projects that don't require my talent, my focus, and my time. And I have clearly defined that 4%. And that dictates what will win the majority of my focus and time. And so I essentially can say no now to everything else and find a solution for all those other things that are kind of on my to-do list. And this is basically my list. This is my 4% list. Brand and culture. I basically put these into buckets. That would basically be anything that has to do with vision, mission, and values. I do. Finance and budgeting. I identify investment opportunities. Product creation and packaging. An example would be, I identify value gaps and I dream up user experiences. I handle the marketing sales strategy. Something that I will not outsource is advertising, creative, and copy. Pricing and promotional strategy, setting market pricing and offers. That's the stuff that I do. Strategic account management. I will identify accounts where I feel like I can create alignments and I want to utilize their voice of customer, their VOC for further insights in product development and value creation. And the final one is creating content, valuable content, relevant content, sharing insights and communication, sharing my scars, sharing what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me. An example of that is what I'm doing right now. And because of these 4%, because these 4% of activities directly result in 64% of my growth, I've hired directors and managers to lead all the other things that need to be done. And that allows me to put my focus into these highly leveraged activities. Now, to simplify even further, I actually theme my days with my focus around each of these areas. And this includes all these projects and also all of my meetings. So for instance, Mondays are for content, Tuesdays are operations, finance, and product. Wednesdays are marketing and growth, Thursdays are brand and culture, and Fridays I use for admin, preparation for the next week, and then my own education, where I, let's say, read a book or watch a seminar or journal. And by organizing this way, I feel like I have control of my business and I can own those moments that matter, which by default increases my confidence. So the question for you, my friends, is this: what are your top 4%? Those few impact generating, revenue producing activities in your dental lab that you must be doing and are not doing now. And to help you answer that question, here is my methodology, and I try to go through this exercise weekly. The first thing you need to do is you need to make a list of all of your business activities, low, medium, and high. All the tasks that are currently on your plate, all the things that you know you need to get done, all the things that are screaming for your attention. Just brainstorm on a white piece of paper and write them down. And then from there, conduct an 80-20 analysis on these activities, right? We can't boil the ocean. So we're going to start with 80-20. We'll start to gather those things that actually drive and impact the bottom line of your business. And once you've identified that 80%, now you know what you need to say no to. Create an action plan to help you delegate, automate, or outsource those tasks. And then finally, take it one step further and apply the 4% rule. And this way, you will invest your time and energy and talents and focus only in the 4% of those activities that bring the most value to your dentist, impact your employees the most, and drive revenue growth to your dental lab. And this exercise will allow you to go deep into value creation. Keep it simple. Remember, simplicity brings order. Impact, influence, and change. These power words are nothing more than behavioral algorithms. The formula is simple. Focus plus talent over time. The rest is cause and effect. I hope you guys have found this helpful, and if it was, I would ask that you please pay it forward by introducing someone you know to my podcast. And if you would, I would really appreciate it if you would leave the podcast a helpful review online. That would be awesome. Until next time, my friends, thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day.